Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to Granny B's house. Are you having a good day? Oh, I hope so. Granny B's having a pretty good day. You know, sometimes at your school, maybe not at your school, but at some schools, they have a grandparents' day. You know, I love being a grandparent. But I've only been to a grandparents' day, I think once or twice, because my grandchildren, most of them, don't live around here. So it's really fun for me to read a book about Grandparents' Day. So I hope you have grandparents, and I hope you remember to be kind to your grandparents. And I hope you remember that maybe they're old and maybe they're not well, but boy, they do love you. And I love all my grandchildren. I just wish I could see them more often so I could tell them in person. All right, this is called Hooray for Grandparents' Day. And it's written by Nancy Carlson, and it was a weekly reader book. So let's see about these grandparents. Tomorrow was Grandparents' Day at Leslie Lower School, and everyone was busy getting ready. Everyone except Arnie. Hey, Arnie, will you help me put up this poster? Asked Harriet. Sorry, I have library books to return. Besides, who needs Grandparents' Day? Arnie grumbled. When Miss Child saw his face, she asked, "What's the matter, Arnie? Didn't you like your books?" "The books were great," said Arnie, "but Grandparents' Day is tomorrow, and I have no one to bring." Why don't you invite a grown-up you know well?" said Miss Childs. "I'm sure lots of grown-ups would love to be a grandparent for a day." "That's a great idea," said Arnie. "I'll ask Mr. and Mrs. Timmer from next door." Arnie worked on his invitation all day long. "What you got there, Arnie?" asked Jerry. "I'm inviting my neighbors to come for Grandparents' Day tomorrow." "Hi, Arnie, want to play catch?" Coach Ed asked. "Sorry, Coach, I have to get home and invite my neighbors to come for Grandparents' Day tomorrow, said Arnie. Arnie ran all the way home, past Bill and Dottie's bakery, where he usually got his after-school snack, and past the Paris dress shop where Madame Jeanne always straightened his shirt and smoothed his hair. And Arnie finally got to Mr. and Mrs. Timmer's house. They were gone. There's a note on the door that says, "Gone to climb Mount Fuji, home in 2 weeks." Now who would he bring for Grandparents' Day? Arnie thought and thought and thought, but by the next morning he still hadn't come up with someone who could be his grandparent for the day. At the Paris dress shop, Madame Jeanne said, "Bonjour, Arnie. Why the sad face?" "Today is Grandparents' Day at school, and I have no one to bring," said Arnie. "Poor Arnie," said Madame Jeanne as he walked away. When Arnie got to Bill and Dottie's bakery, Bill said, "You missed your after-school snack yesterday, Arnie. How about a donut?" "No, thanks. I'm not very hungry," said Arnie. "Today is Grandparents' Day at school, and I don't have anyone to bring." "Poor little guy," Bill whispered to Dottie. On his way into school, Arnie saw Ms. Childs. "Why, Arnie, where are your neighbors?" she asked him. "They're out of town," he said, "so now I don't have anyone to come as my grandparents." When Arnie got to class, there were grandparents everywhere. "Arnie, where are your grandparents?" whispered Harriet. All at once, there was a knock on the door. It was Bill and Dottie. "Hiya, grandson," said Dottie. "How about some donuts for everyone?" asked Bill. Then there was another knock, and in came Madame Jean. Bonjour, Arnie. It is I, your grandmère. Before Arnie could say anything, in came Ms. Childs, Coach Ed, and Jerry. We heard our grandson needed us, said Jerry. Harriet nudged Arnie. So what do you think of Grandparents' Day now? She asked him. Arnie looked around the classroom. I never knew a kid could have so many people care about him, he said. Hooray for Grandparents' Day. Well, didn't that turn out well for Arnie? I'm so happy for him that he found some substitute grandparents so that he could enjoy Grandparents' Day with everyone else. Well, that's a good idea. If your grandparents live somewhere else and you can't invite them to Grandparents' Day, maybe you have a neighbor or a friend of your parents or even someone from your school who could kind of step in and substitute as your grandparent for the day. Because I know your grandparents love you and they'd be there if they could. Just like I would be there if I could for my grandchildren. So if you remember that Granny B loves you, you always have a grandparent here. And I hope you'll come back again so I can read you another story. Okay? Bye-bye.